So my name is Nicolas. I'm the French farm manager. So I have the chance of taking care of the lavender for Young Living. But in France, we also grow many different plants. The idea that Young Living had, that Gary had from the start, was to have a farm where the plant naturally grows. So for France, we grow anything that is from France. So we have lavender is the number one, but we also have clary sage, fennel, oregano, rosemary. We have some helichrysum we call the Corsican helichrysum. This is the Croatian helichrysum. On this farm, we have some Corsican helichrysum. We have some, what am I missing? I think that might be all. Hyssop. We have some hyssop. I know I'm forgetting a couple, but so we have really the local plants. That's always been Gary and Young Living's idea, to keep the plants where they grow the best. That way, that's where they're supposed to be. We also do einkorn, of course, and we do einkorn because it has actually been in France since we can remember. So it was in the wild, and it started being cultivated before lavender started being cultivated. And when lavender, about 105 years ago, started being cultivated, einkorn was a great rotation crop, because einkorn brings, how do you say that? Brings organic matter back to the soil, but also it makes a rotation, so it would be a plant that is different than lavender, so it doesn't use the same types of nutriments, and the straw brings another type of nutriments. So the idea of rotation is not having a single plant stay in the same soil forever, or the soil becomes unbalanced, and you have diseases, and you have weaker plants, and you have all of that. So einkorn was used for that, to be a rotation. And that's why we started really continued to cultivate it way after so many countries have stopped. And so that's why we kept it in its original form. What can I tell you about the farm? The harvest takes place in the summertime, so usually I would say the more active month is July. We can start from mid-June, depending on the weather we had during spring. If we had a hot spring, we could actually start the harvest mid-June. But if we had a cold spring, we start the harvest usually beginning of July. We start when most of the flowers are in bloom and the quality is where we want it to be. So we would start harvesting and distilling, and the harvest itself would last for a month and a half. And that includes all the plants. That means clary sage, lavender, rosemary, everything is distilled during that time frame. So we have quite an active month and a half there. And that's usually when we have members join us. And so you can help out, you can see how it's done. You can understand also what it takes to make a quality oil. It's not just about how we grow it. It's about how we cut it, how we distill it, how we store it. Everything is very important. And the best way to understand that is to come on site. And so that's why we always welcome and have members. Not only it's good for us because we get some help and it's a fun time, but also, you get to really see what it takes to make a quality essential oil.
I have one question regarding clary sage.
Yes.
I remember you talked about it. There was something about the weather condition. You can see the oil in the flower.
Yes, the oil of the clary sage is really on the plant itself, on the leaves on the plant. It's very sticky plant because it's part of the oil that's there. And if you look at it through the sun, the leaf, you'll see little sparkles every on. That's your essential oil in the plant. And the issue we have with that, well, it's not an issue. Nature's how it is. But if it rains during that month of July, which it rarely does, but if it does rain before we harvest the clary sage, all the oil is taken away and down in the soil. So we have a very bad harvest for the clary sage. But that's, part of nature. You can't control the weather.